I didn't plan to be there that morning, that's the honest truth. I was only in London for 2 days, and my sister told me I had to see the guards outside the palace at least once. So I went. No big reason, just a tourist with a cheap coffee and a phone that kept dying. It was one of those July mornings that can't decide what it wants to be. The sky was pale, almost white, and the air felt heavy like it might rain but wouldn't commit to it. The crowd along the black railings was thick. Kids on shoulders, people holding their phones up high. A woman next to me kept saying the same thing to her husband over and over. Just wait, they'll move soon. And there he was. One of the guards standing behind the gate, still a stone. Red tunic, tall black hat. His eyes fixed on something far past all of us like we weren't even there. I remember thinking how strange that is, to stand like that, to let hundreds of strangers stare at you and not blink, not shift, not even wipe the sweat from your face. A boy in front of me tried to make him laugh, waved, pulled a silly face. Nothing. The guard didn't move a muscle. I found out later his name was Corporal Daniel Ashfield. Back then he was just the still one to me. The morning went slow. People took their photos and drifted off. New people took their place. The coffee in my hand went cold, and somewhere in that boredom I almost missed the first sign that something was wrong. It started small, a man near the far end of the crowd. Older, maybe 50s, wearing a gray jacket that was too warm for the day. He kept moving. Not walking exactly, more like pushing. Shoulders forward, head down, cutting through people who didn't want to be cut through. A few of them turned, said something. He didn't answer. At first I thought he was just rude. You get that? Tourists in a hurry, no manners. But then I saw his hands. They were shaking, not a little. A lot. And his eyes were wide and wet, and they were scanning the ground, back and forth, like he'd lost something and the whole world depended on finding it. The woman beside me went quiet. Her husband put an arm across her without thinking about it. That instinct people have. The man reached the front of the crowd and grabbed the railing with both hands. His knuckles went white. He was breathing hard, chest heaving, and he started saying something. I couldn't hear the words at first over the noise. Then the noise died down, the way it does when a group of strangers all sense the same thing at once, and I heard him. "Where is she? Where is she? She was right here." Nobody moved. A few people stepped back. You could feel the crowd fold in on itself, everyone quietly deciding this wasn't their problem. This was a man who might be dangerous. Keep your children close, don't make eye contact. And the guard, Corporal Ashfield, he saw it too. I know he did. Because for the first time all morning, something in his face changed, just barely, a flicker. His eyes moved. Down and to the left, toward the base of the gate, toward the very spot the man kept staring at. I didn't understand yet. None of us did. But whatever the guard saw down there, it made his jaw tighten. And that stillness he'd held for hours suddenly didn't look like calm anymore. It looked like a man getting ready to move. Here's the thing about that morning I keep coming back to. Everyone was looking at the man in the gray jacket. Everyone had decided he was the danger, the threat, and so nobody looked where he was looking. Except the guard. I followed his eyes, down past the railing to the narrow gap where the gate met the stone, and that's when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, yellow dress, one shoe. She had squeezed herself through a gap most adults wouldn't have noticed, and she was standing inside the forecourt now, on the wrong side of the barrier, in the open space where no member of the public is ever meant to be. She wasn't crying. That was the worst part. She was just standing there, calm, looking up at the huge stone building like it was the most wonderful thing she'd ever seen. And to her left, coming around the corner of the courtyard at a steady clip, was a mounted patrol. 2 horses, big animals, hooves loud on the stone. The riders couldn't see her yet. The angle was wrong. A parked barrier blocked the line of sight. I remember my stomach just dropping, that cold, sick feeling. The man at the railing screamed his daughter's name. "Maisie?" And she turned toward his voice and she took a step, toward him, toward the gap, which meant a step out into the open, right into the path. It happened in the space of a breath. The guard broke. I don't know how else to say it. 1 second he was a statue, a fixed point, part of the building almost. The next he was gone from his post, boots hammering the stone, that heavy red tunic flying, his rifle held tight against him so it wouldn't swing. I have never seen a big man move that fast. The crowd made a sound, this collective gasp, because a Queen's Guard leaving his post like that, you just don't see it. It's not allowed. It goes against everything they're trained for. He didn't care. He crossed that courtyard in maybe 4 seconds. The horses were close now, the lead rider finally spotting the movement, hauling back on the reins, the animal's head jerking up. Too slow. The girl was right there in the open, still reaching toward her dad. Ashfield scooped her up mid-stride, just swept her off the ground with one arm and kept turning, using his own body to put himself between the child and the horses, his back to the animals, curling around her. The lead horse skidded, hooves scraping, coming to a stop close enough that I saw its breath. Close enough. For a second nobody breathed, the whole crowd, hundreds of us, silent. Then the little girl laughed. She actually laughed, because to her a man in a funny hat had just picked her up and spun her around, and it was a game. She had no idea, none at all. And the man in the gray jacket, the one we'd all been afraid of, he dropped to his knees at the railing and just broke down, sobbing, hands over his face, saying thank you, thank you, thank you to nobody, to everybody. He wasn't a threat. He was a terrified father who'd lost sight of his daughter for 30 seconds in a crowd of thousands. 30 seconds, that's all it takes. The guard carried the girl back toward the gate, holding her like she weighed nothing, and I saw his hand pressed flat against her little back, keeping her steady. That's when everything changed, not just for them, for all of us standing there watching. They opened the smaller gate. An officer came out and there was a bit of a huddle, some quiet words I couldn't hear. Corporal Ashfield knelt down and handed the girl through the railing into her father's arms. And the man held her so tight I thought he might never let go. He was still crying. She was still smiling, patting his cheek, confused about why he was so upset. The crowd started clapping. It began with one person and then it just spread, this warm, ragged applause, people cheering, some of them wiping their own eyes. I looked around and grown men were quietly crying. Strangers were putting hands on each other's shoulders. It was a strange kind of beautiful, all these people who came for a photo and got something else entirely. And Corporal Ashfield, he stood up straight, adjusted his tunic, and walked back to his post. That's the part I can't get out of my head, even now. He didn't wave. He didn't smile at the cameras. He didn't take a bow or wait for the thanks he'd more than earned. He simply returned to his spot, planted his boots, lifted his eyes to that far-off point past all of us and became a statue again. Perfectly still, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just crossed a courtyard in 4 seconds to put his own body between a child and 2 horses. Someone near me said the guards can get in trouble for leaving their post. I don't know if that's true or what happened to him afterward. I hope nothing did. I hope somebody somewhere told him he did the right thing. I stayed a little longer than I meant to. I couldn't quite walk away yet. I kept watching him standing there, and I kept thinking about all the hours I'd spent that morning half bored, half annoyed, wondering why anyone would want a job where you just stand and stare at nothing all day. I understood it differently now. That stillness isn't nothing. That discipline, that patience, all of it, it's just waiting. Waiting for the one moment out of 1,000 ordinary ones when it actually matters. And when that moment comes, you have a fraction of a second to be the person you spent all those quiet hours becoming. He was ready. That's the whole thing. He was ready. I left London the next day. I've been home a long time now. But sometimes when the days feel small and pointless, when I'm just standing around waiting for something to happen, I think about that man in the red tunic, still as stone, holding his post. Because you never really know which quiet, ordinary moment is the one that's about to change everything. And whoever you are when it comes, you'll want to be ready too.